He was 34 years old and he had nothing saved. Not because he wasn't earning. He was doing okay. Better than okay, honestly. A solid salary, steady work, the kind of stability a lot of people his age were still chasing, but the money just wasn't there at the end of the month. And the reason it wasn't there, he said, was something he'd never actually said out loud to anyone before. He'd been sending most of it home. The discovery wasn't a single moment for him. It was more like a slow coming into focus, the kind where you've known something for a while but haven't let yourself look at it directly. What finally forced it into view was a conversation with a financial advisor, the first one he'd ever seen, which his company offered as a workplace benefit. She asked him where he was on retirement savings and he told her. She went quiet for a moment and then asked him to walk her through his monthly budget line by line. By the time they got to the family transfers, because they were plural, regular, a standing arrangement, she asked him how long it had been going on and he said 5 years, roughly. She typed something into her calculator and showed him the screen. The number on that screen was the first time he'd actually seen the full shape of what he'd been doing, because he'd never added it up before. He just paid, month after month, and the number was $87,000. He grew up the oldest of 3 kids in a family that was always tight on money, not in crisis, but never comfortable, the kind of household where everyone felt the pressure even if nobody named it. His dad worked inconsistent contract jobs. His mother cleaned houses and managed the home and held it all together in the particular exhausted way that mothers in those situations often do. When he left for college, first in his family, full scholarship, he felt the pride and the guilt of it in almost equal measure. He got a good job after graduation. His younger sister was still at home. His mother's hours had reduced, and his father's work had dried up almost entirely. The first transfer wasn't a decision exactly. It was just a response to a phone call, his mother saying things were tight this month, him having money for the first time and knowing where the need was. He sent $800, and it felt right. It felt like being a good son. The problem, the thing that makes his story genuinely complicated, is that it never stopped at $800. The needs expanded to meet his willingness to help, the way needs often do when there's a reliable source of help nearby. Within 18 months, he was sending $1,800 a month, and that had become simply what happened, simply the shape of things, and nobody in his family questioned where it came from or how much it cost him because nobody knew how much he was earning, and it just didn't matter to him. I read something once, I can't remember where exactly, about how the children of immigrants or families with financial instability often carry what researchers call a loyalty tax, an informal, unspoken, completely real financial obligation to their family of origin that their peers from more stable backgrounds simply don't carry. It's not resentment exactly. It's more like a structural feature of their financial life that nobody built into the plan. He'd never heard that phrase, but when I described it to him, he went very quiet. Here's the thing about this situation that makes it different from a lot of the stories I hear. The person who was doing the most damage to him financially was him. Nobody forced this. Nobody lied to him. His family didn't know the full picture and they weren't asking, and there's something to examine in that. But mostly this was a series of choices he made, 1 month at a time, to prioritize their comfort over his own future. And still, it's not simple. Because the alternative, in his mind, was leaving his mother short for the month, or his sister without rent help, or his father without a buffer when work didn't come. He grew up watching those shortfalls land on people he loved, and he understood in his body what they felt like, and $1,800 was the price of never having to watch that happen again. The silence around it was the thing that accumulated. He never told his mother the actual number. He never told his sister he was covering her rent. She thought it came from a family fund of some kind, a fiction he'd constructed and maintained. He never told a girlfriend, never told a friend. He managed 2 separate financial realities, the one people could see and the one where the actual math happened. And for 5 years he told himself he'd start his own savings next year. His gross salary at the time of the conversation with the advisor was $78,000 a year. After tax and his employer's health plan, He was taking home around $4,900 a month. His personal expenses, rent, food, transport, everything, ran about $2,600 a month, which left him roughly $2,300 to work with. He was sending $1,800 of that home, which left him $500 a month, out of which he was supposed to be building an emergency fund, contributing to retirement, and maintaining any kind of financial buffer for his own life. He wasn't contributing to his 401k at all, not even enough to capture his employer's full match, which was another $1,560 a year he was leaving on the table every year without realizing it. The advisor told him that at 34, if he started contributing 15% of his income to retirement immediately, the compound growth over 30 years would put him in a genuinely comfortable position. Every year he waited made that number meaningfully harder to reach. He'd already waited 5 years. The cost of those 5 years, the missed contributions, the missing employer match, the compounding he didn't get, she estimated it in the hundreds of thousands in eventual retirement value. He sat with that for a long time after the meeting. He went home for his mother's birthday a few weeks after that meeting. He helped with the cooking. He sat at the head of the table in the seat everyone assumed was his, and watched his mother laugh at something his sister said, and he thought about the number on the advisor's calculator screen. He didn't say anything. He hadn't figured out what to say or whether he was going to say anything at all. He drove home that night and transferred the $1,800 for that month, and sat in his car in the parking garage for a while before going upstairs. Not because he regretted it, because he didn't know yet whether he regretted it, and that uncertainty felt worse than regret would have. I find this one genuinely hard in a way that I don't think I'm supposed to find it hard. The standard financial advice answer is obvious. Stop sending money you can't afford to send. Set your own oxygen mask first. You can't help others if you're drowning. And that advice is not wrong. It's just that it's advice written for a completely different set of circumstances than his. The oxygen mask metaphor assumes everyone on the plane started with equal access to masks. A lot of people didn't. What I actually think, sitting with this, is that the most important thing he needs is transparency, not reduction. Not necessarily cutting the transfers, but being honest with his family about what he's earning and what supporting them at this level actually costs him over time. Because right now, his family is making decisions about what they need based on a version of his financial life that isn't real. And he's making decisions about what he can give based on guilt rather than genuine choice. Neither of them is working with the actual information. The $1,800 a month, if he decided to continue it at all, probably needs to go down, and it probably needs to be formalized in a way that feels less like bleeding and more like a deliberate family arrangement with a defined structure. Some families do this. It's not unusual in certain communities. There's even a term for it, the family CFO, the person who manages money across the whole unit. The problem isn't the role. The problem is that he's in the role secretly and without the authority that should come with it. If I were in his position, honestly, truly in it, I think I would need to have the conversation I've been avoiding. Not a confrontation, more like a renegotiation, one where I show my mother and my sister the actual number, the real cost, what it's doing to my 30s, and ask them to help me figure out what's actually sustainable. Because the way it's going, someone gets hurt eventually. Either them, when he burns out or something changes, or him, when he's 60 and doesn't have what he needs. The math doesn't lie, even when the love is completely real. He's still sending the money. He told me he reduced it slightly, $1,800 down to $1,400, and that he's now contributing enough to his 401k to at least capture the employer match. He said that felt like progress. It's something, I think. I'm not sure it's enough, but it's something. The question I keep sitting with is this. When your financial obligations to your family are real, and your love for them is real, and the need is real, at what point does loyalty become something other than generosity? And who exactly is he protecting by keeping the number a secret, them or himself? If this story landed somewhere close to your own life, Thank you for sitting with it. Subscribe if you want to stay with these conversations. They don't get easier, but I think they matter. Take care of yourselves.